So Emma Steinkellner, of course, is an illustrator, writer, and cartoonist. She lives in Los Angeles, but of course she's from Santa Barbara. She's a graduate of a pretty good school called Stanford University, and she's illustrated the Eisner-nominated comic Prince. She is the author and illustrator of the OK Witch series. It's a wonderful graphic novel series. But tonight we're going to talk about her wonderful new novel, Nell of Gumbling, My Extremely Normal Fairy Tale Life. So please welcome home Emma Steinkellner.
Thank you all for showing up. Earlier today my parents were asking me who I'm excited to see, and I didn't know if anyone was coming, so I said nobody, and anybody else will be a great surprise. I don't know who's coming, but this is fantastic. This is so exciting. It's really, really exciting to see all of you. So, hi. First off, I really want to thank Chaucer's Books from the bottom of my heart for inviting me to come talk today. I am a Santa Barbara girl, so Chaucer's has always been very dear to me as a reader, and now it's dear to me as an author. My name is Emma Steinkellner, and this is my newest book, Nell of Gumbling, My Extremely Normal Fairy Tale Life. And I am a writer and an illustrator of middle grade graphic novels for readers about 8 to 12 years old, which coincidentally was probably about the time in my life that I really fell in love with comics and graphic novels, in no small part thanks to some of the great books I got right here at Chaucer's, and the great Archie comics that I got at the grocery store. This will be the third graphic novel that I've written and illustrated. If you have heard of the OK Witch series, those are mine too. And I did also illustrate an indie comic series called Quince, created by Sebastian Kadlecik and written by my sister, Kit Steinkellner. I really like working with my family. We come from a family of writers, and it's always fun to collaborate and figure stuff out a little bit. If you have siblings, you know that might introduce some complications as well. It's mostly really fun. So when I'm coming up with new ideas for books, I often start by thinking about what I like to read, watch, play, and imagine, but mostly read when I was the age that I'm writing for. So when I sat down to come up with an idea for a new series, I thought about the kind of stuff that I liked to read as a kid, and I remembered how much I loved fairy tales. I loved collections of fairy tales, both retellings of ones I knew by heart and stories that were completely new to me. When I was little, my mom, Sherry, read to me every night, and we made up this game called Comparing and Contrasting Cinderellas. We would go to the library and we would pick up as many versions of Cinderella as we could, and we would read them together, and we would try to figure out what made them similar and different from each other. So my favorites were Mufara's Beautiful Daughters, Ella Enchanted, classic, and there was a Wild West version called Cindy Ellen, a Wild Western Cinderella, highly underrated. If it is still in print, I recommend it. I loved both classic takes on fairy tales and more kind of skewed, funny takes. Sticky Cheese Man, Shrek, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Again, classics, one and all. So I also loved fictional diaries and epistolary novels made of letters, notes, and other documents. These and fictional journals have really been popular with readers this age for a long time because they're just always a fun look inside that main character's point of view and how they're feeling about what's happening. So some of my favorites were the Amelia books. There's books by the Kleiss sisters, Kate and M. Sarah Kleiss, that are really, really great. So I loved fairy tales, and I loved funny fictional diaries from the main character's point of view. So what did I do? I combined them. So let's read a little bit together and find out how that went.
Cool.
You know what? I'll do the hardbound copy. I feel like I'll be better at turning the pages here. All right. Dear Journal, my name is Nell and I'm 12. The first pages of all my journals are like that. My name is Nell and I'm 11. My name is Nell and I'm 10. This one had a velvety cover and a lock and key, but I lost the key. My name is Pavlova and I'm 9. When I was 9, I tried to get everyone to start calling me Pavlova, but it didn't stick. Then a few pages into every journal, I give up. It's not my fault. It just gets really boring. But this time, I will keep this journal. I have to. If I'm going to take myself seriously as a writer and an artist, I need to make a commitment to my craft. This is what Dad calls a high-stakes situation, and I have to rise to the challenge. Note, a pavlova is a dessert named after a famous ballerina. That's Anna Pavlova. She wore flowers under her hair. How did she make them stay? I don't know. So like I said, I'm Nell, short for Lenore, Starkeeper, and I'm 12. This is me, see below. The 3 ways I wear my hair. Number 1, 2 braids down. Makes me look the most like a little kid, so I don't do it anymore. Number 2, 2 braids on top. My favorite, because it makes me feel like an old-fashioned lady who had one of those sticks with 2 buckets. Number 3, all the way down. Keeps my neck warm, but I have so much hair that it gets in my mouth when I talk. Ew. Big nose, big glasses, big ears. They all fit on my head, though. Bruisey, scrapey, scabby arms and legs from climbing trees and walking backwards. Four plunks, 7 peoples tall. That's 4 feet 9 inches, or almost 1.5 meters. Things I always have with me. My journal from now on. Pens, pencils, and coloring stuff. And a travel-sized charging star. Pa makes me take it everywhere for emergencies because I'm the oldest kid, so I have to be responsible. Okay, I should clear up some stuff. Dad grew up way, way far away, and he says he never heard of plunks, peoples, or charging stars till he moved here. So if any of this sounds a little strange, I'll explain here a little bit more. Gumbling, formerly known as the most precious kingdom of Gumbling. I live here. It's not a kingdom now because 100-ish years ago, the king of Gumbling stepped down from the throne. He didn't think there should be a king anymore, and then he disappeared. So now it's just Gumbling. There's the Gumbling River, the hills, the valley, the Wild Hoof Beast Reserve, Starkeeper Star Farm, my house and my family's farm. I can go into more detail about it later. There's Thumblestump, my second best friend and neighbor Gilligan Bug is a thumbkin, so his whole family lives comfortably in the tree stump next to my house. Yabulga's hut. This is where Yabulga the witch lives. We try to avoid it. She really hates when anyone gets near her house, and then this is the forest. The Castle Memorial Community Center, or the CMCC. It used to be the castle when it had a king living in it, but now it's mostly used for town council meetings, public housing, and elderly ballroom dancing. The Third Wish Inn. My best friend Myra Didwell lives here because her parents run the inn. She's fairy on her mom's side, and she can even fly a little now. There's the Opera House, Poor Little Mouse Square, the town square where most of the shops are. It's named after this thing that happened a long time ago where a mouse had its tail caught under a pumpkin for like 4 hours. The fish house, the flower shop, Miss Garlick's house, she's my teacher, and Gumbling School. I go here. Out-of-towners think living in Gumbling is like some kind of fairy tale like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty or something. It really isn't. It's just, I don't know, regular. Like, I have friends and go to school just like any kid. Speaking of school, tomorrow we get our apprenticeships. Tomorrow is the day that all the 7th graders at Gumbling School get assigned our apprenticeships. We will learn the tools of a trade from a real working person in town by working with them after school for 3 months. Why is this the most important, most significant, most game-changing day of my life? Because I just know, I'm going to be assigned to apprentice with the town's most famous artist, Wiz Bravo. He's amazing. Not only has he been chosen to paint the ceiling fresco of the Gumbling Opera House and half the paintings at the museum, but he's also a big deal even outside of Gumbling. He's showcased art in Paris, Tokyo, New York. I want to be him. Maybe someday when I'm a famous Wiz Bravo type artiste, this journal will be in a museum too, and people can see what my life was like when I was a kid. If you are a museum person in the future, this is for you. My house. Drawing my house like this gave me a headache. So I live in the top room now. I used to share with Schmitty, but my dad said if I cleaned out the attic, I could make it my new room. It's definitely an adjustment, but now I have some privacy so I can work in peace. There's the bathroom, Rib's room, Dad and Pa's room, Schmitty's room. There's Dad's office where he does the business side of Starkeeper Star Farm, ledgers, taxes, bills. There's the couch room where we watch TV. I love TV, but it is weird when you watch a movie and they say magic isn't real. Well, maybe not for them, but haven't those depths ever heard of Gumbling? There's the kitchen where Rib bakes treats and Dad makes vegetables. And here's Starkeeper Star Farm. All around the world, people can't touch the stars because they're too far away and too hot. Not in Gumbling.
The King's Star Fairy gave a patch of stars to the poor Starkeeper family a long, long time ago to help them. That's why the stars hang so low in Gumbling Valley, why we can touch them without getting burned to a crisp. No big deal, right? The farm. This is where Pa picks the stars from the star patch. He makes them into lots of things like lights and chargers and star stuff, which is renewable energy that powers most of the town. This is the lift that Pa takes up to pick stars. There's the trap door that here it is collapsed. There's Pa's workshop. Here's the star sorting thingy, the squeezer machine that juices the high capacity ones for star stuff. Do not touch. The sander, also do not touch. It smooths charging stars out. There's the slidey bit. And there's Pa's work table for chiseling stars. You can charge your phone or computer or anything with it, and your battery will be full in minutes. There's my family. That's Pa. What he's like. He's really fun and silly and jolly. He's good at laughing. His laugh is the loudest laugh I've ever heard, and he loves to laugh. He loves his big red beard. He says he's had it since he was 16 years old. He likes to hum and sing while he works, and he smells like his old chore coat that he wears when he works. It smells like stars. If you've never smelled stars before, they smell like a little like burnt popcorn. There's Dad. What he's like. He's nice, but strict. He doesn't laugh as much as Pa, but when he does, it's really cool. He loves the big calendar in the kitchen and soft, wrinkle-free sweaters. There's Dad's iron. He smells like plain soap. He's good at having good ideas. It was his idea for me to wear the braids on top of my head so I wouldn't eat my hair anymore. There's my little brother Rib. What he's like. He's only 10, but he takes care of everybody, making treats and cleaning up all the time. Here's just some treats Rib makes. He's good at baking and cooking, and he just checked out a book on junior spellcraft from the library, so he's trying out magic. He'll probably be perfect at it. He smells like cookies. And he what he loves. Dad says Rib has a tender heart because he loves everybody and he wants to make life nice for the people he loves. And that's my baby sister Schmitty. It's short for Schmidline. What she's like. She's 6 and she's a lot. Dad and Pa call her an active little girl. I call her a mess, which they say isn't nice, but they didn't have to share a room with her. She's good at playing and having fun and burping and spilling and tracking mud. She's so funny. She loves bumping my elbow when I'm trying to write or draw. See? I told you. And she smells like her animal friends. Her animal friends include lovely Lana, the milk snail, Crook, the talking gumblebug, who she has taught 5 words to, Big Girl, the wild hoof beast, and of course her awful goose Schmugly, who is her pet. I hate Schmugly. Everyone in town hates Schmugly. I think even Schmugly hates Schmugly, but Schmitty loves Schmugly. So that's my life future museum, people. Normal-ish, huh? But when I am selected as Wiz Bravo's apprentice, it'll all change forever. And I'm 100% absolutely, positively sure I'll get picked because my teacher, Miss Garlic, had us rank our top 3 choices for our mentor and hand them in. And here's a copy of mine. Rank your top 3 apprenticeship mentor choices. You might not get your first choice, but you will have an enriching apprenticeship experience no matter what. Number 1, Wiz Bravo, artist. Number 2, Wiz Bravo, artist. Number 3, Wiz Bravo, artist. This is a little strategy on my part. Much like Schmitty blocking all the doors and windows so Schmugly can't fly away, I am corralling Miss Garlic, guiding her. I leave her with no option but to pair me with Wiz Bravo so I may start on my path to destiny and one day become an incredible writer and artist. Me now? Nobody special. Me later? Famous artist, beloved by all. So, spoiler, Nell doesn't end up getting her dream apprenticeship. She has to work in the town archives down in the dark, dusty former dungeon of the castle with a super strict town lorekeeper, Mrs. Birdneck. And adding to this year's drama, Nell and a bunch of other kids, including 3 of the other ones on this cover, one of whom is really, really small. Nell and a bunch of the other kids in town have to pull together to hunt down clues all over and under Gumbling left by the last king from 100 years ago and save their community from becoming a tourist trap under the rule of 2 greedy developers who claim royal heritage. High stakes. Wouldn't you agree?
Makes you want to crack open a book, huh? So, making this book and creating the world of Gumbling, I got to really break open my imagination and see what was inside. I was really visually inspired by all the books I talked about up top, as well as like studio era Technicolor movies like The Wizard of Oz, The Court Jester, The Bluebird, and Hans Christian Andersen. Also, beautiful worlds of Hayao Miyazaki and the gentle, gorgeous Studio Ghibli animated films, and video games like Animal Crossing, where I found myself just wanting to sink into these worlds when I played them. I loved putting together this whole new types of characters, like Nell's best friend Myra, the fairy, or her neighbor Gil, the thumbkin. By the way, if you do want to see what size you would be as a thumbkin in Gumbling, you measure from the tip of your thumb to the top of your wrist. That is the conversion ratio. That is the very mathematical. I think everyone here can testify that as a child, math was my strength. Or Nell's frenemy, a very fancy unicorn centaur girl named Walla Lala. And I got to imagine whole new characters like the benevolent wild hoof beast, which I'm going to show you how to draw right now. So, I love creating new animals. It's so much fun. But oftentimes, what I'm trying to do is just combine a few different animals that I already like looking at. So for this, the mathematical formula for wild hoof beast is mostly Scottish Highland cow, if you've ever seen those. They're very cute. And then a little bit like those kind of mop-ish sheepdogs, the ones that kind of look like mops. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And then just more cute animals. You know what, I'll turn this away. Okay, so we're gonna start with like a potato shape. When I do this at school visits, all the children laugh when I say the word potato, so if you could please operate like them. And then usually when I'm drawing, I'm thinking about overlapping shapes. What's going on top of what? That, like, if I think about drawing like you would think about sculpting, or in my case, Play-Doh, and it really helps. You think about that kind of base shape, and then what are the shapes you're putting on top of it. So in this case, there's a lot of kind of overlapping two shapes. This is very, anytime I've got a drawing that involves a lot of little things. Oh, has my helper arrived? Thank you. And then it got this kind of soft socket-like nose. Two nostrils, and if we want to give it dimension, we just put in another magical line. Then more these overlapping shapes. Have them longer in some places. And then we've got some horns, but they're soft horns, you know. There's the name of the game with a hoof beast is softness. That's even too much. Because they're not using these horns to skewer anybody, just to, you know, gently prod maybe sometimes. And then it's a hoof beast, so what does it have to have? Thank you. All right, let's give them count them, 4 little hooves. And then let's put a heart, because there's love. And that is how you draw a wild hoof. So I think we have some time for some questions. Is that correct, or?
I'll lead off,
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
Please.
So, Emma, when you decide to do a story, do you draw first or do you write first?
That is a very frequently asked question. So the answer is sort of both. So oftentimes when I'm starting on a story, I'm outlining and creating what's called concept art at the same time. Because as I'm outlining, I'm deciding kind of all of the big scenes in the book and what order they go in. Not the little fine details like what the characters actually say to each other, but just what is happening in each scene.
how long I think that scene will take in pages, and what order it goes in. So while I'm doing that, I'll often come up with ideas for places, locations, people, characters, props, or moments that I kind of need to sketch out before I can really write that scene. I've got to if it's an important location, I want to be able to orient myself. I want to know, okay, if the dungeon turned town archives, I've got to sketch out, know how many levels are there, know where people could be standing or sitting or what they could be holding while a scene goes on, so that then later when I write it, I have a better sense of how that'll go in my head. So oftentimes that's happening at the same time, but then from there it goes into I go pure writer mode for a second, and write that script. Then from then on, for a few months, I'll be penciling, which is this. I sketch out the whole book. And then I refine those sketches, turn them into line work, and then I do coloring, which is the longest part of making the book, but it's also kind of the most relaxing, because it's when I can turn my brain off just a little bit more. Because usually I've laid out, when I've done that concept art, I've laid out a color script as well. So I know what the characters of what color their outfits are, what color these locations are. So when I'm in that coloring zone, it's more of a mechanical process for me, which isn't true for every artist. Some people, it can just be different for different artists. But then once that is colored, then I back and forth. At all these stages, I'm editing along with my publisher, so they're giving me notes along the way. But then there'll be more edits at the end, and then once the art is locked in, from there on, it's about a year until the book actually comes out. So there's a long time waiting, which is hard for me, because I think many of the people who have seen me grow up can testify I don't like to wait. But I do. But it's good for me. And ultimately it's so fun just to have the book come out. And in the middle of that year, I get what's called an advanced reader copy. This is the new Nell of Gumbling that's coming out in September. So get a little preview of what it's going to be. Cool. This will be September. Look forward to that. I know I will. Any other questions? Yes.
One thing I really like about the book is the sort of like mixed media kind of thing, where there's like surveys and different drawings. Do you have any specific influences from other books? Because that feels quite unique to me.
Thank you. I yes and no. I think for the middle grade graphic novel, from what I understand, it's pretty unique in that aspect. I mean, you've got certainly these illustrated diary style books like Dork Diaries or Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which are very good at what they do. And I think I've incorporated a little bit more of a graphic novel element into. They're just a little combined there. I don't think I invented it by any means, but I don't know. But really, when I was a kid, I was very influenced by those Kleiss sister books, the books written by Kate Kleiss and illustrated by M. Sarah Kleiss, which are that epistolary style. They're all notes, messages. There was one called Letters from Camp that I think the school let me take home because I checked it out so much, and I still have that copy. That's a really, really fun book. But yeah, books like that, or the Amelia books, I think also had those pasted in little, which I love, because especially for a book that takes place in a fantasy world, I think it's really fun, this idea that you are holding a copy of a book that takes place in a land where fairies exist, and there's a real piece of paper taped into it. That would have made me go absolutely wild as a reader as a kid. So, and that's who I'm always creating for. So in a large part, so I'm trying to make 8-year-old Emma just lose her mind with excitement. Yeah. Yes.
Well, this is actually from my daughter. I think she's too shy to ask herself, so she asked me to ask you. She was wondering why you decided to write graphic novels, right? Is that the question? Yes.
Well, it's a great question, and let me say, I'm shy too. I'm not. I'm not at all. So I've always been really, really drawn to both writing and drawing, almost in equal amounts. And I think, like, because I come from a family of writers, I think the drawing was extra attractive because that could be just my thing. Although I'm a very talented artist in my family as well. But I've always just really loved consuming stories, reading books, watching movies, watching TV shows. So and I've always known that my relationship with the things that I watch or read was more than watching or reading. It was all I've always felt like, oh, I want to make something too. When I read or watch something that I really liked from an early age, it made me want to make something too. And so I didn't always know, oh, I want to make books, or even I wanted to make comic books. I just knowed what I just knew what I liked to enjoy, the things that were so fun for me to read or consume. And so I think that's probably what kicked it off. And again, just coming from a creative family, knowing that writing and storytelling as a career was an option, and one that was very satisfying for them, and that brought them a lot of joy. That was really exciting too. And again, this is all stuff that made me as the youngest child go, oh, I want to do that too. That's exciting to me, and I feel like I've got something to say as well. And so I thought for a while maybe I'd like to be an animator, because I really liked watching cartoons, and I would still love to get involved with animation. I think it's still really fun. But it just sort of ended up that that graphic novels, when I graduated college and as I was starting to put my ideas out there, it was, I think I owe a lot to creators like Arena Telgemeier, who really made this genre of the middle grade graphic novel explode and gave readers this age something that I didn't know. I didn't even know was possible when I was 8 to 12. I loved Archie comics, and as I grew older, I started to get into graphic novels, like Persepolis, Anya's Ghost, all of these. But I don't like that. As far as I know, or I just didn't know as a child that was ever going to be a genre that was specific to that reader, that reader age. And it's an age, that 8 to 12 space, that I identify with a lot. It's when I found myself becoming particularly inspired to create for the first time. So I'll always be really excited to create for readers that age. Yeah. Yes.
I have 3 questions.
All right.
Can I ask 3 questions?
I think so.
Did you love The Borrowers?
Oh
Did you
my
ever read
gosh.
them?
Okay. Yes. Should I expand? Or should we get to the second question? Yes, I love The Borrowers. I think you can tell. I loved anything that had to do with being this big and in a big environment. I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, really more Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. That was the one that I watched more, the one where the adults are shrunk down. I think anything that involves inner tubing in a big Cheerio, that's so exciting. And as I was watching this, I marathoned a lot of movies like that. I watched Thumbelina. I watched and I read a lot of books. Frankly, I watched a lot of movies. I watch more movies than I read books. But I watch 2 movies a day, so there we go. But you find yourself, it's such a fun thing to be able to imagine, just look around an ordinary space and imagine how things would be to scale if you were just this big. So yes, love The Borrowers. Question number 2.
Number 2, did you keep a diary when you were this age?
I really identify with the
first page of this book where she talks about all the diaries she's given up. I loved the idea of myself as a diary keeper, but I would definitely run out of patience a lot. But I am so grateful for the journals that I did keep, and my parents keep everything. So when I am able to look back on a long stretch of time that I recorded, it's such a gift to me now that I did that then. So I always encourage journaling for kids. I think you'll be so happy you did it. And now I am a regular journal. I have, if anyone's ever heard of a 10-year journal, they're really, really cool, where it has the date, say today's April 10th. So it'll have April 10th, and it'll have it for 2015, 2016, 2017, all the way for 10 years. And so you write just 4 lines a day, but you can always compare and go and notice trends where I'll go like, oh, I always have a kind of bad first week of December. I don't know why, but something always messes me up around it's always really fun. So I loved my 10-year journal. Question number 3.
You have a really fun job.
I
so
do.
what do you do for fun?
Well, I watch 2 movies a day. It's such a funny question, and I know a lot of people here who've got fun jobs, so I'd be interested to hear all your answers too. So it's interesting. I have to create some separations. For instance, I do art both for work and I do it just for myself as on my off time, but I very intentionally only work digitally for the stuff that's going to be published, that I'm doing for work. And then I'm pretty strict about, like, when I'm drawing for just pleasure, for just hobby, it's pencil and paper. It's, I can make mistakes and I don't have to correct them. It's just a totally different thing. So that, I think compartmentalizing like that is very helpful for me. So I do like drawing just for fun too. I also really do love like Play-Doh and model magic. And yeah, I mean, watching movies, watching TV, I love to watch. I'm in a sort of book club style movie club where we watch on a theme each season, and that's always really fun. And I like, I don't know if this is boring or not, I love walks. I really like walks, and I think whenever I'm doing like a school visit or something, I always try to encourage like taking breaks, because it's really hard to make myself take them, but they're the best, and you're gonna be so happy you took them. And sometimes you get your best ideas when you're just off the clock, and you're not a machine, and so you've got to have something to just relax and breathe. So I love a walk too. Yeah. Thank you for 3 fabulous questions. Everyone a winner. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
I assume you made a lot of this book through the COVID epidemic, and do you think it's that sort of isolation affected how you worked, or did...
That's a really interesting question. So let me kick the table to emphasize how interesting I think it was. That's a table kicking good question. So my job changed very little when COVID hit and when we were locked down. I already worked from home, so my day-to-day really didn't change very much, but the feeling did. And I was probably, I think, early 2020, I would have been starting on color for OK Witch 2, the OK Witch and the Hungry Shadow. So I often have very just vivid memories of when I start on a stage of a book, so that was very clear to me. So I think in 2021 I would have been selling the idea for this, and so by the time I was working on Nell of Gumbling, things had probably, I believe lockdown had started to ease up a lot. It was like
but a lot of the theme of the Gumbling books in general are themes of community and coming together and appreciating each other's strengths and learning how to deal with other people's styles and working as a community and cherishing your community. Like Nell really learns how to cherish her community of Gumbling and how to save it from becoming something that it should be, which is, you know, a big touristy, overblown castle world. And so that really, I guess that really spoke to me in a time where it felt like I was re-embracing how to be social again and learning how to find new ways to come together with people. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Loved it.
That made me think.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. It was really, really nice to see
Jennifer,
everybody.
thank you.